The Royal Court Chief and the Lower House Speaker discussed steps that will lead to the designation of a new Prime Minister, marking the start of a new era of parliamentary governments. IAEA officials say they will work hard to resolve Iran's nuclear issue in talks between the six powers in Kazakhstan later this month, and Iran says it will cooperate well at the meeting. And the U.S. President is due to deliver his State of the Union address as time ticks down on his bid to advance an agenda that will help shape his White House legacy. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. The process of selecting a new Prime Minister in consultations with the lawmakers has begun. Royal Court Chief Faiz al-Tarawni met today with Lower House Speaker Saad Hayesroor to discuss steps that will lead to the designation of the Prime Minister. Yesterday, His Majesty the King tasked Tarawni to start deliberations as part of a new approach to designate a Prime Minister. The consultations, which mark the start of a new era of parliamentary governments, will take place with lawmakers on Sunday. Tarawni said the process reflects a royal vision on choosing a new Prime Minister, who in turn will consult with the House on selecting his cabinet members and his agenda for the next 4 years. Sroor, for his part, said he looks forward to working with parliamentary blocs and independent parties to advance the democratic process.
This government has only 30 days, during which time there are many issues to be tackled. We have to begin consultations and show the world that we are serious. That immediately following His Majesty's speech from the throne at the opening of an extraordinary session, we have begun to deliberate. We hope that between now and Sunday, the blocs would have been formed. There will also be some independent deputies. So we will begin talking with the larger blocs, then the smaller ones, because this is part of democracy. We will talk with the independent deputies all together as one bloc. There could be more than one session with each bloc, and God willing, we hope to reach our goal soon.
Over to Syria, and opposition fighters have captured a military airport 60 kilometers east of Aleppo. One of the opposition commanders who planned the attack said the airport was used to bomb northern eastern rural Aleppo, and by capturing it, rebels have cut the government supply line from Aleppo to the east. Activists said the focus of rebel operations in Aleppo was meant to neutralize 4 airports in the province, which have been also used as artillery bases to shell rebel-held towns. In Damascus, the army moved tanks to central Abbasiyat Square to shore up its defensive lines after rebels struck several security targets in the city. Jets bombarded rebel-held areas in the east of the city in eastern Ghouta, from where rebels have launched an attack to cut off the loyalist supply lines. In Egypt, protests against President Mohamed Morsi continue. Last night, protesters clashed with police forces outside the presidential palace in Cairo as they marked the 2nd anniversary of former President Hosni Mubarak's ouster. The conflict broke out when some of the protesters threw petrol bombs at the building after a peaceful march. Police responded with water cannon and tear gas to disperse them. The protesters refused to leave despite more than 2 hours of confrontation with the police. One protester said that more than 100 of them were injured and more than 50 arrested. A flood of demonstrations also gathered at the Tahrir Square, but no clashes happened there. Iran's Foreign Minister Ali Akbar Salehi says Tehran hopes for positive steps at talks on its nuclear program with world powers in Kazakhstan this month. Speaking in Russia, one of the 6 powers that will be represented at talks with Iranian negotiators in Kazakhstan, Salehi said his country is hoping there will be positive and constructive steps to resolve the problem. Iran today acknowledged it has resumed nuclear program activity, but the move is seen as a positive step that could avert a crisis with world powers trying to convince Iran not to develop a nuclear weapon. Here's more.
In Vienna, the UN nuclear watchdog said it would seek to bridge differences over a restart of investigation into Tehran's atomic activities. Deputy Director General of the IAEA said the differences with Iran remain, but that negotiators will work hard to resolve them. The IAEA official was speaking at Vienna airport as his team were departing for a meeting in Tehran tomorrow.
Our goal is to finalize the structured approach document. Now, this document would facilitate the resolution of the outstanding issues related to Iran's, to the possible military dimensions of Iran's nuclear program. Differences remain, and also this time we will try to work hard. We will work hard to try to resolve these differences.
Iran today said it is converting some of its higher-grade enriched uranium into reactor fuel. It was the first acknowledgement by Iran that it has resumed its nuclear program, a move seen as a positive step that could help prevent a dispute with the West for its nuclear program. As the six powers, Russia, the United States, France, Germany, China, and Britain, prepare to meet in Kazakhstan later this month to prevent Tehran developing atomic weapons, Iran continues to insist that its nuclear program is entirely for peaceful purposes. An Iranian foreign ministry spokesman said today his country is ready to come to a comprehensive agreement on inspections with the IAEA if its nuclear rights were recognized. Russia, meanwhile, is calling for realistic steps towards Iran if it cooperates with the IAEA and with the Security Council. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov speaking at a news conference in South Africa.
As for the upcoming meeting 5+1 with Iranian representatives in Almaty, of course, we will discuss there all the problems, including the problem of non-complying with the Security Council's demand to freeze enrichment.
The IAEA has been trying for more than a year to revive its inquiry into suspected nuclear weapons research by Iran, which denies its allegations that it is seeking to develop the capability to make atomic bombs. Iran's production of higher-grade uranium worries major powers, as it is only a short technical step away from 90% purity needed for a weapon. The United States late last year set a March deadline for Iran to start cooperating with the IAEA investigation and warned Tehran that it might otherwise be referred to the UN Security Council. Zainab Soufa, News at 10.
In Jerusalem and in an address to American Jewish leaders, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said if increased sanctions and diplomatic pressure did not persuade Tehran to stop its nuclear ambitions, it would have to face a credible military threat. Netanyahu, who was last week nominated to form a new government, has said Iran would top his administration's agenda.
Its nuclear weapons program continues unabated. It's focused on enrichment.
France said it is ready to unblock EU membership talks with Turkey on the subject of help for EU regions. The step marks an improvement in relations between the two countries since the arrival of President François Hollande to power last year. While Hollande has stopped short of endorsing Turkey's EU candidacy, he has said it should be judged on political and economic criteria, in contrast to his predecessor, Sarkozy's position that Turkey did not form part of Europe. Turkey began talks on joining the EU in 2005, but has only completed one of the 35 policy areas or chapters every candidate must conclude to be allowed entry. The Turkish Prime Minister last week said Turkey should be admitted without delay. In a few hours, U.S. President Barack Obama will give his State of the Union address, with one eye on the political calendar as time ticks down on his bid to advance an agenda that help shape his White House legacy. In his address, he is expected to announce plans that 34,000 troops in Afghanistan will return home by early next year, thus decreasing by half the number of U.S. forces serving there. The State of the Union comes less than 24 hours after North Korea conducted a nuclear test, which Obama in a statement called a provocative act. But with unemployment still high, the focus of the speech will be the U.S. economy and the federal deficit. Here's a story.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
U.S. President Barack Obama returns to Capitol Hill Tuesday night for his first State of the Union address of his second term. His message is expected to focus on the economy, says Thomas Mann of the Brookings Institution.
He is basically trying to restore in the public mind the importance of government in helping the country, its economy growing and new jobs created. Shifting away from government is the problem to government is an essential player in brightening future prospects for the country.
But Obama's plans to boost the economy will likely face Republican resistance.
I think the president is going to be tough and clear, invite their cooperation, but frankly, not expect they will do anything out of anything other than political fear.
Obama will travel to 3 states over 3 days after his address, going on the road to drum up support for his agenda.
The UN Security Council was to hold an emergency meeting on North Korea's nuclear test when the United States, South Korea and others could begin a process of pressing for more sanctions on Pyongyang. U.S. President Barack Obama said the United States will strengthen close coordination with allies and work with the 6-party partners and other UN member states to pursue firm action against North Korea. The magnitude of its third test is seen by the world as an attempt by North Korea to show it can develop a warhead for a missile. Pyongyang, meanwhile, said the test, which was condemned by world powers, has used a miniature device. But the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization based in Vienna said an explosion-like event that North Korea described as a nuclear test had a seismic magnitude of 5, bigger than similar tests it carried out in previous years, and described the action as a threat to international peace and security. According to the 2012 social media report issued in the United States, the number of social media website users such as Facebook and Twitter has sharply increased over the past 2 years. Social networks in the U.S. still dominate internet usage. Facebook dominates with 70% of PC time spent on the site. Females are also found to spend more time on social networking than males. The United Kingdom is one of the early countries to realize an emerging type of addiction and treat like any other serious problem, such as alcohol or cigarette smoking addictions. And now there are specialized clinics to treat social media addicts. Rad Batush has the story.
How much time do you spend on Facebook or Twitter? And how could you tell if you're addicted to social media? In the UK, social media has been recognized as an official addiction. A study last year by the University of Chicago found it can even be more addictive than cigarettes and alcohol. The study showed that social network features such as likes and retweets give users a burst of the addictive dopamine, while a lack of endorsements can provoke jealousy and anxiety. Asked how often they use social media websites, users showed they do spend a lot of time on Facebook and Twitter.
Can be up to 10 times a day. Yeah.
Between 4 and 6?
What would you say if I told you that meant you were addicted?
That's awful. I'm not surprised though.
Signs of addiction include spending more than 5 hours per day on our social media website. But other than time, what are the symptoms of addiction?
They start to miss or avoid doing the necessary things in life, even at a fundamental level of self-care, where they delay eating or avoid eating and drinking, delay sleep, meetings, or delay getting into work or college.
Dr. Graham works at the Tavistock and Portman Clinic in London, devoted to treating social media addiction. He says teenage girls are the most susceptible to social media addiction, with peer pressure and the need to be seen online, both major factors. He also says treatment begins with complete abstinence and a timetable of organized activities. However, others choose what they believe is more innovative to heal themselves from social media addiction. Gemini Adams decided to shun Facebook and take up yoga.
That little sensation would come up that would be, oh, I'll just see if anybody's commented on that thing I wrote this morning. And I used to be a smoker, and it's very similar, that sort of sensation of needing to have something, needing to go and do something.
Yoga now forms a big part of her detox, as well as writing using a pen and paper rather than a computer. Radip Dush, News at 10.
I know New York and the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, but not your typical glitter and glamour. Betsy Johnson revealed her Fall 2013 workout collection, blowing a whistle to signal it was time to start. Models came on the runway performing their workouts of cardio, aerobics, push-ups, and crunches, wearing Johnson's line that included workout jackets, pants, shorts, and leggings. Bright colors of yellow, hot pink, turquoise, and red were used in the collection. High-top sneakers picked up their heels in neon colors and funky shades. And to wrap up her show, Johnson performed her trademark cartwheel and splits. Thailand broke the Guinness World Record for the most number of people simultaneously hula hooping in one place as part of the Public Health Ministry's effort to promote fitness around the world. Thousands of people of all ages twirled their hips at the same time in an effort to smash the record previously held by Taiwan. And their efforts prevailed as the official count was 4,183 hula hoopers at the stadium, twisting for 7 minutes. Following the twist and turn, participants recited a pledge promising to exercise at least 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. Real Madrid will face Manchester United in a mouth-watering Champions League last 16 first leg at the Bernabeu tomorrow. Cristiano Ronaldo will be facing his former team for the first time since joining Real Madrid and will be desperate for Real to rise to the occasion against the club that helped to land the Champions League trophy in 2008. Ronaldo spent 6 seasons with United and scored 118 goals in 292 games. Tomorrow's match also renews the rivalry between Real's Jose Mourinho and United's Alex Ferguson. Manchester continued their training today before flying to Madrid. Midfielder Phil Jones will be central to Ferguson's plan for the clash, although he just recovered from a leg injury. Although Real have been disappointing in La Liga this season, for tomorrow's clash, history favors them. The International Olympic Committee's Executive Board made a surprise recommendation that wrestling should be removed from the 2020 Olympic Games as it looks to revamp the Games sports program. Wrestling will now join baseball and softball, martial arts, karate and wushu, roller sports, wakeboarding, squash and sports climbing as candidates for the one empty spot. The board will meet in May to determine which of these will be put to the vote in September. And finally, to the weather outlook. Cold and partly cloudy conditions continue with light variable winds. A slight rise in temperature is expected tomorrow, but it will remain relatively cold in hilly areas and fair in other regions, while winds will be southeasterly moderate to fresh. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect fair weather and partly cloudy skies tomorrow, with northerly moderate winds and slightly choppy seas. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. The Royal Court Chief and the Lower House Speaker discussed steps that will lead to the designation of a new Prime Minister, marking the start of a new era of parliamentary governance. IAEA officials say they will work hard to resolve Iran's nuclear issue in talks between the six powers in Kazakhstan later this month, and Iran says it will cooperate well at the meeting. And the U.S. President is due to his State of the Union address as time ticks down on his bid to advance an agenda that will help shape his White House legacy. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alif Khan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.